So The Laws of Human Nature is a psychology book by Robert Greene. The main idea of this book is to actually understand human nature, what motivates us to act in certain ways, what also motivates people to hurt others, why they envy others, what are the consequences of your irrationality, uh, how can you meditate on your own mortality, which is the last chapter of this book. By understanding human nature, it means that you don't understand yourself as much as you think you do. There are a lot more to discover about yourself, and by discovering yourself, you then go and further understand others, and this will give you some sort of intelligence, which I think we can call it social intelligence,
Mhm.
because you can have the best ideas, but working on the best idea with the wrong person will might lead to the wrong results or
Mhm.
might hurt you. So you don't want to do that.
Welcome back to the Book Talk Lounge, brought to you by the Reader Lounge. My name is Emiliano, and this is episode number 4 of the section of the show in which I talk with people from the community about transformational books that have been very valuable to them. My guest today is once more my friend Roy, who is an avid reader from Lebanon, founder of the book blog Readers Reviews 1. In our conversation today, Roy and I talk about one of Roy's favorite books, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. The Laws of Human Nature is all about how us humans think, feel, and act, where those things come from for each person, and how you can break your programs and patterns to become a conscious creator of your reality so that you choose and design your life. Now make sure you get prepared to listen to this valuable and fun conversation with my friend Roy about one of the books that he's very passionate about, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. Roy, now let's talk about the third book that you are going to share with us. And I think that I have in mind what book it is, but I mean, I would like you to tell us.
I'm sure you know which book it is. It's The Laws of Human
It
Nature.
is. Great. I'm excited to get into this one because, I mean, you have shared a lot about it, and you have said that it's your favorite book or one of your favorite books. And I'm curious to learn why and how it has impacted your life. So let's get into it. How did the book come into your life? And, how was the experience with the book at first like?
Actually, it is a funny story. When I started my reading journey, I used to judge a book by its cover. So if a book doesn't have a beautiful cover, well, this book isn't good. And I've I have seen several times Robert Greene's book, and in particular Mastery, which personally I didn't like the cover, and I would say if the cover is looks doesn't look good to me, I might not like the content.
Mhm.
And how stupid I am to think like this.
No, I mean it does happen. I do that sometimes as well.
Yeah. So so I sort of decided, I don't know how, that I won't ever read any book by Robert Greene. But one day I decided, let me pick a book by Robert. I've seen him several times, and if I want to read a book by Robert, let me pick the biggest one, which is The Lost Nature. Go all in or nothing.
All in or nothing.
That was the strategy.
Go big
And
or go
I
home.
go big or go home.
Yeah.
So it was the first book I read in 2021, actually, which means 1 year ago. It marks
Mm,
exactly 1 year since I first started this book.
nice.
And I think it is the first psychology book that uh, I've read. So it was sort of an introduction to psychology and human nature to me. And I was looking for also I was looking for a book or something that teach me more about other people, how others act, why they act in a certain way. So I think this book came at the right time. So like this, I tried. Uh, I gave this book a shot. I tried to. I got the book. Started 2021 with it, and since then I've literally fallen in love with The Laws of Human Nature, this book, and I'm a big fan of Robert Greene.
Nice. What was the experience of reading like, and what did you like so much about the book that made you even be obsessed with it? What made you actually love it and be passionate about it? And what's like the book about, like in general?
My initial goal for reading this book was to try to understand others.
Hmm.
But you finish the book and you realize that you understand yourself more. This was surprising for me. Like I was expecting to, let's say I was having a conversation with someone, I would read his mind. But this book showed me that I barely know myself. That's a starter. Although it also teaches you how to further understand others, but the first step you have to take is to really understand yourself. You
Hmm.
have to understand your biases, which cause you to act in or take irrational actions. Makes you aware of your emotions. Where, uh, why do you feel this way? Although it is somehow difficult to really understand why you feel this way because uh, it goes back to your childhood and you don't remember your first years. So you probably someone else asking you questions will help you dig deeper. But somehow you start to understand the origin of your emotions and look back. Try to remember some parts of your childhood and understand that if others acted in a certain way, let's say in a way that you didn't like or find repulsive, maybe there is something that bothers you because of your childhood, or they acted in a certain way because of their childhood.
Hmm.
So kinds um, makes you see that there is a reason for every action, and it might not be very clear at the moment, or might not be clear right now. Uh, but there are some underlying motives. So that's one reason. Another reason this book came, I would say, here in Lebanon, politics is a big topic. Although I don't like to talk about it or whatever, but
Hmm.
you can't run away from it here.
Hmm.
You always hear news here and there. So it also made me understand how some leaders or political leaders, let's say, uh, still influence their supporters. That's one. And how the supporters still stick or support the same political figure or political party, no matter what.
Hmm.
So before reading this book, I was like, why are they doing this? Why are they still supporting this person and not this person? Or why haven't they changed their mind? But after reading this book, you understand why. I was,
Hmm.
for example, one thing we people hate to admit that we are wrong, especially if we if we've done the same thing for years and years. So if we look back, we hate to admit to ourselves that we were wrong, and we try to convince ourselves that no, we are doing the right thing, even though we're not. That's one thing. Another thing is what actions those leaders take to, let's say, stir the emotions in their supporters and uh, light this fire inside of them.
Hmm.
Let's say they give a vague speech. They aren't very specific. For example, or say what the supporters want to hear.
Yeah, or maybe
Like,
they avoid talking about certain things or things like that.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly. So Robert Greene goes more into details in his book about this. So just uh, a small idea of how you can further understand others.
Hmm, nice. And then, so it seems like these topics were like really impactful and interesting for you. And what were other maybe aspects of the book that made you love it? For example, did you like Robert Greene's writing style, or maybe the structure of the book?
Mm. His writing style and the structure is both are beautiful. First of all, he took a very complex topic and made it accessible to almost anyone. So if you, at the first glance, you might think that if I want to learn about the human nature, that must be difficult and complicated. But
Mm-hmm.
Robert Greene makes it so simple. And his writing style is first he uses easy words so we can understand. The goal of this book is to help you understand human nature and not try to understand few words. What does this sentence mean? This is very difficult to understand, but understand the big picture. And he starts every chapter with a historical story, and then draws the conclusions. So it's
Mm.
also it also makes the book engaging. So we're not always reading facts or lessons. You can take a break and read about a historical figure, I would say.
So you start reading stories and being engaged with that, and then he teaches you a lesson with it.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
that's the same thing that he did in Mastery. And I believe it's he has done, or it was his writing style since he wrote the 48 Laws of Power. He always starts with a story, uh, then moves on to the lessons and the conclusion.
Yeah, I haven't bought any of Robert Greene's book. Well, I do not have any of Robert Greene's book, but like a year ago, I bought one for a friend of mine, and so I had it here in my house for like some days, and that was, just going through some pages. And I think that he does do that. Like he starts with a story and then shares it. And
Mm.
also, I from what I remember, the design of the pages is, let's say, a bit artistic, isn't it? Because he creates this circles or squares or triangles or whatever with words. Does he do that as well in the laws of human nature?
No, he doesn't do this in the Laws of Nature. I think he did it in the 48 Laws of Power and the Art of Seduction.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the case in both books. And I'm not sure if I think he also did this in the 33 Strategies of War, but that's not the case in The Lost from Nature or Mastery.
And then, getting back into your experience and the book after you read it. Well, first of all, how much time did it take for you to finish the book?
It took me a month and a half, and some days I would uh, read for more than 2 hours. It is a big book, especially if
Mm.
you want to read from cover to cover. Uh, but after this experience, what I would recommend is uh, choose the chapter that you like and read any chapter you want, because the chapters aren't interconnected. So each chapter is independent from the other.
Mm.
And I think this makes it easier for readers to approach this book because it is intimidating. Like having 586 pages isn't small, and each page is big. Yeah, I mean the page is long, and there are a lot of words in only one page. So at the first glance, it does seem intimidating to read such a big book, and uh, some people told me that uh, they might they may fear that they may get bored with this book because it's big. But the reality is, first you can choose any chapter you want. I would say, let's say today I want to learn or I want to read about uh, the generation of humanity. For example, we humans live in a cycle formed of 4 generations, and the cycle repeats itself. Each 4 generation, we go back to the beginning. So I would say, if you want to learn about this, go ahead, open chapter 17 and read that chapter. If you want to learn about dark side, confronting your own dark side, go to chapter 9 and read chapter 9. If you want to learn about irrationality, go to chapter 1 and learn how to master your emotional self. If you want to learn about empathy or seeing through people's mask, reading body language, each topic has its own separate chapter. So I think this makes it easier to read this book or to approach it.
So from what you tell, I perceive that it talks like, well, or part of the book talks about our patterns and our, how I like to call it, like our unconscious programs that society or friends or family or people in general
Exactly.
or even ourselves consciously created. And then does he talk about like breaking these programs? And this is sort of what I was telling you about earlier, that and this is what I mean by living intentionally, like breaking your programs and choosing your own reality. Does he talk about that in some way?
Yes, yes, he does. Actually, this is what makes the book almost perfect. Because I don't want to seem, I want to don't want to seem biased or anything, but this one for me, this book is perfect. So uh, yes, Robert Greene uh, talks, if you want, covers the every aspect of the topic that he talks about. Let's say chapter one, mastering your emotional self. Uh, as you said, there are some unconscious actions. Okay, so when you start, when you first start reading the this chapter, uh, you become aware of your irrationality. Like for example, I would go to some person or or Robert Greene came to me and told me you have a bias called confirmation bias, which means that you only search for information that confirms your old beliefs. Let's say
Mm.
uh, now I'm aware. Then Robert goes even more and tells me how to overcome this bias, how to become less irrational in this aspect, in the confirmation bias. And one thing I could do is search for information that contradicts my old beliefs,
Mhm.
and then compare the two beliefs and try to form an objective opinion. For example, if I believe that A is better than B, let's give an example,
Mhm.
and you come to me and tell me no, B is better than A. What what the rational thing to do is, okay, put A and B in front of me, and you do the same. I would search, let's say, the pros and cons of A, search the pros and cons of B, and try to form an objective opinion which one is better, and try to forget that before I was a supporter of A, but actually B might be better than A.
Mhm.
I would say, Emiliano, you are correct. B is better. Let's go with B. It could be can be comparing business strategies, can be comparing older beliefs or whatever.
So it helps
So
you. It helps you be open minded and develop critical thinking as well.
exactly, yes,
Great.
yes.
And then now I would like to get into what happened after you read the book, after the month and a half of reading. Would you mind sharing an experience or some fun story in which you had a clear example of how the book had an impact on you, or on how you used a lesson from the book?
I would say I started to further understand my own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Because as I said, you start understanding where they come from, although it's difficult uh, to actually uh, dig deep and reach the origin on your own. Need someone else to help you. But this gives you a higher perspective. Like if I'm thinking of something and I don't like it, let's say, before reading this book, I would say, why am I thinking like this? Am I a bad person? Or uh, am I not as good as I think I am? Or whatever, these thoughts. But after reading this book, okay, I'm thinking like this. I think I understand why this thought came to my mind, and try to dig deeper and see uh, the real why behind uh, this exact thought. And this makes you come more at peace with yourself, because sometimes just like this, a thought comes to your mind, and you're like, why am I thinking like this?
Hmm.
Or again, I'm I'm uh, I'm not a person that thinks like this, but here I am thinking like this. What's happening?
Yeah,
So
you start to identify yourself with your thoughts and
exactly, yes.
with your beliefs. You know what? Let's do the following thing, because well, A New Earth, from my perspective, talks about these topics a lot. Maybe not from a psychological perspective a lot, but more from a philosophical and sort of spiritual, if you would like to call
Mhm.
it like that. Um, Let's do the following. I will buy and read The Last of Human Nature, and you buy and read The New Earth. This-
Deal.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Then we can talk about it and discuss it again. Nice. Yeah. And if you could, so you have just given an example of how this helped you and how you started to reprogram your mind and your beliefs and to start thinking critically and not just following your biases and your usual thoughts. But if you could share one concept or one idea from the book to anyone that you think would be like maybe even life changing or transformational, what would it be?
Uh, my favorite chapter from this book is actually the first chapter,
Mm.
and most probably, my favorite thing from the first chapter is the about the confirmation bias, and it invites you to be more open-minded. That's the first. As I said before, if I believe in A and I don't believe in B, that doesn't mean that A is better than B. Uh, I have to overcome my biases, overcome my irrationality, and my irrational thing to do is form an objective opinion on these two topics. Another thing is people are not what they seem to be. Uh, don't focus on what they say, focus on their actions. And Robert Greene emphasizes on the fact or on the idea of focusing on the patterns of a pattern. Let's say you want to start a project with someone and you don't know if this is a good person to do a project with. This person comes to you, shows you his CV, let's say, and you see his CV is amazing. Best grades, he worked at the best companies, he worked on the best projects, whatever. What Robert shows that don't focus on this, try to search or learn about the history of this person, like the projects he previously worked for. Let's say he worked on 4 projects. If he finished these 4 projects, most probably he is a good person to work with. But if his teammates talk badly about him, he left his team midway, I would say. Uh, he's not someone who finishes projects. No matter what his CV would say or his resume, uh, his actions or his previous patterns speak louder than what he's saying or what he's actually showing you.
So, summarizing those 2 points, it's about the second point is about like not focusing only on the superficial stuff and on what people say they can do or what they have done is, but it's also focusing on what they have been doing and what they do and how they act and how they are around people, how people talk about them. So it's also about the other stuff, going deeper. Is it like that?
Uh, some I would say yes. Uh, what what also we have to make something clear here that uh, do your own research. Like okay, someone talks badly about this person, but this someone, is he talking correctly, or does he just envy this person and just want talks badly about it? I would say
Yeah, maybe
so.
there's a bias or something in that person.
Exactly. Also, approach others in a way that you really want to understand them. Put some effort in understanding others. So uh, try to not listen to your first or initial opinions of others. And there's an analogy that Robert Greene makes, which is pretty interesting. Imagine that the person in front of you is a character in a movie. And
Hmm.
when you watch a movie and you follow the character, you become so immersed in the movie or in this character, you want to learn more about them. And the more the director shows you about this character, the more you connect with the character, and probably makes the movie even better because
Mm-hmm.
you really start to understand them. So imagine the person you're talking to is a character in a movie, and be curious about them. Uh, Probably your first uh, conclusions about this person, or your first first thoughts aren't very accurate. So overcome this by being more curious.
Yeah, connecting this idea to other two books, which I like a lot, are, well, firstly to the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. So seeking first to understand and then to be understood, which I would also connect to an idea that we talked about earlier, which is not judging a book by its cover. And then also, secondly, I would connect it to how to win friends and influence people, because in a chapter he talks about being genuinely interested in others and how that helps you build more meaningful and better relationships and be better with people. And yeah, well, that's those were some pretty cool lessons. And now, to start wrapping up with the 48, no, that's another book. Sorry, with the loss of human nature. How would you like describe or summarize the book in just a few sentences for people listening? As you have already done, share a little bit about the impact, or more about what the book, more about how the book goes. Just summarize it, please.
Yeah. So The Laws of Human Nature is a psychology book by Robert Greene. The main idea of this book is to actually understand human nature, what motivates us to act in certain ways. And what I mean by motivate us is not that I'm motivated to make money, so let's say I'm motivated to make money, so I go and work hard. But what also motivates people to hurt others? Why they envy others? What are the consequences of your irrationality? Uh, how can you meditate on your own mortality, which is the last chapter of this book? How you personally act in a group, and how the group acts as a group. For example, uh, on a personal level, you aren't the same person, or most probably aren't the same person when you're alone or you're in a group, especially when it's crowded.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, by understanding human nature, it means that you don't understand yourself as much as you think you do. There are a lot more to discover about yourself, and by discovering yourself, you then go and further understand others, uh, and this will give you some sort of intelligence, which I think we can call it social intelligence,
Mhm.
because you can have the best ideas, but working on the best idea with the wrong person will might lead to the wrong results, or
Mhm.
might hurt you. So you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So one of your due diligence is not just understand your project, understand who you're working with, or who are you associating with. And this book teaches you, I think, almost anything about human nature.
Yeah, well, again, Roy, thanks for sharing these books with us, and also thanks for getting deep into the loss of human nature, because I mean you talk a lot about it, and I was curious to learn more about what your perspective and your take on it was, and so thanks again. Is there anything else that you would like to add to the loss of human nature, or to anything that we talked about, or just to share where people can find you, or maybe a question to me, or do you want to add anything?
I want to say something about the loss of human nature. Please don't be intimidated by the size of the book. It is intimidating at first sight. It is a big book. It is a heavy book, but uh, it is easier than you think. Um, and what's also make it easier to read is that every chapter is independent from the other. So that's my own experience and my own point of view. So you can read every chapter individually at any point in your life. You don't have to read the book in one sitting or on a continuous basis.
Mhm.
I would recommend starting with the first chapter about irrationality and mastering your emotional self, because in other chapters, you will also notice uh, some things related to irrationality, the people's emotions. So I think this will make your reading journey more pleasurable and enjoyable.
Nice. One question that just popped in my mind is about like your reading experience. And so, do you know these guys from What You Will Learn? There are Adam Jones, and Adam
Yes,
Ashta. Yeah, well,
yes.
I had them on my podcast, and they also shared that they liked this book a lot. And I think it was Ashta. Yeah, I think it was him who shared that he wished that the book had been even longer because they enjoyed it that much that they just wanted to keep reading. Did something similar happen to you?
Uh, I, s- yes, and I started reading the book for a second time, but I've stopped, I
Nice.
think, at chapter 7 or 8. I first decided to read a chapter in every week, and then some other stuff came. So, but the main idea that I wanted to read the book in another time, and I actually started reading another time, and I'll probably continue reading it. So, yes, I agree with the guys from What You Will Learn that I do wish that this book was had more things to say or teach.
Great. I mean, I will buy it soon, and I will read it, and I will share
Please,
my thoughts with you. Yeah. Well.
and I will read A New Earth.
Yeah. Please do. It's
I
amazing.
will. I will.
Yeah, well, Roy, again, thanks for coming. And if you haven't got anything else to add, then that's been it. And yeah, man, thanks.
Thank you a lot, Emiliano. You asked me where people can find me. I'm on Instagram at readers.reviews1. So you can find me there. You can contact me through DMs or by email. I don't care, whatever you like. And I'm more than happy to talk about books with you and recommend you The Lost Human Nature.
Yeah. Well, again, thanks for coming to the Book Talk Lounge and for the value that you added, Roy. And well,
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
hey, so thanks for listening to this episode. I hope that it was valuable for you and that you learned valuable stuff. If you did, please share it to a friend of yours and, just expand the impact. Make sure you are subscribed to the Reader Lounge on YouTube, on podcasting platforms, on Twitter, on Instagram. That was it for today. And so, yeah, I will be talking to you next time. Just keep reading. My name is Emiliano, and goodbye.